All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Genius Lab Coaching and Conversations. I'm Tavana Denise, your host, and I am a business and productivity strategist. And I really just, if I could, on this first episode, tell you just a little bit about myself and how the Genius Lab came to be. And we'll dive right into our topic of conversation today, how to get over your fear of failure. And this one is so apropos today as I'm doing my first thing. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. I started in the world of coaching as a wellness and weight loss coach after getting rid of 80 pounds from part of it from building my physical therapy contracting company. And it was one of those things where I was just working, trying to build wealth and running my health into the ground. And so when I decided to make a change, I really felt great and I really wanted to help other people do the same. And that's how I got into wellness and weight loss coaching. One of the things that I found, though, was a lot of my clients were business owners and they were having trouble getting things done in their business. And so a lot of times when people are overwhelmed and stressed and frustrated, what do? They sit on the couch, they eat a bunch, they're not doing anything because they can't figure out how to work something out. If it's in your relationship, if it's at your job. But in my case, the last 5 clients I had were business owners. And so when we really got into the heart of the matter and what was really going on, I found out that I knew the answers to the problems that they were having and just was able to help them solve it. And that's how I really got shifted into business coaching, found out that I loved it, and started helping other coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs that have a location independent business get their business up and running in the most efficient way possible, because that's one of the things that I love to do and what my genius is, breaking down things to make them easy for people. So fast forward a little bit, and I had started connecting with I do a lot of networking, and I had started connecting with a bunch of beautiful women, great entrepreneurs with beautiful spirits, and we were having a lot of conversations that were sharing things with me that I had never heard anybody else talk about, like people that this is not maybe the best example, but getting burned by coaches, or being afraid to say what we do and to be afraid of sales and to actually do the thing that we want to do in our business, and what would people think. And so as I was having more and more of these conversations, I was like, wait a minute. We shouldn't be having these conversations privately. Someone should be other entrepreneurs need to hear these things and know that they're not alone. So the spirit of the Genius Lab coaching and conversations is sometimes I'm going to just be doing coaching just like this and share some of my knowledge with you all and try to help you work through some of the things that go with starting and growing your business. And sometimes we're going to have some conversations between myself and some of these fabulous women that I've met, because I want you to be able to be like a fly on the wall, so that you can hear and know that you're not alone, and be connected to people who you need them and maybe they need you. And so that's the spirit of that. And it's also built with the intention to tell the truth in business, whatever your particular truth is. This is not a judgment zone. Okay. And so on to our topic of today's conversation, fear of failure. It is a big reason why a lot of us fail to reach our goals. And this is a problem, because when you're an entrepreneur, especially when you decide to take the leap and you no longer work for someone else, it's all on you to make sure that you do what needs to be done, because that paycheck is not coming on the 1st or the 15th or every two weeks or whatever you were used to having. So in this episode, I want to kind of talk about and examine the fear of failure from 2 aspects. One, what it means to fail, why we hate it, and another way to look at it. And 2, about the fear aspect of it. Why do we have fear in the first place? And what is a powerful tool for getting over it? So I was thinking about this topic of failure and fear of failure, and why so many people are afraid of it, and how it's keeping us from getting what we want. And I think a part of it is because we are afraid of change. We're stepping into new territory. And again, when we're talking about being a business owner and going from employee, think about it. If you're in your job, you typically have coworkers that do some functions that are different than yours. So when you step into the role of business owner, now all of a sudden you're thrown into, I've got to be the CEO, the COO, the CSO, the CMO. If you know what all of those things mean, you not only are just doing the job of whatever your task is serving your clients, you have to go get the clients, which is marketing. You have to go sell them into working with you, which is the sales. You have to do the admin and the paperwork. Like at your job, you probably maybe were only the admin assistant, not doing all of these functions. So you got a lot of stuff to learn. A lot of it is new, and it can be quite scary. And so it seems like when I started, I was always, and even now, learning how to do something new. And if it was a podcast, if it was a webinar, writing a book, writing a sales page, if we don't get past our fear of failing, we won't be able to move forward in our business. And one thing that stops a lot of us is this perfectionism, where I could go into a whole, and maybe we actually will do a whole episode on perfectionism, because I think it's directly tied into this fear of failure. People just think, oh, I want to get it right. I want to get it perfect. But really what I see when a person says that is, I'm afraid to fail. And if I don't put out the most perfect version of this thing, which we already know logistically, logically, that there is no such thing as perfect. But if I just stay in my corner and work on it until it's perfect, then I can put it out. Well, you may have missed your opportunity altogether. So I'm going to stop with that there, because that's not what we're talking about today. But when you are used to doing things well, or doing things quote unquote right, you don't want to fail, and you don't want to let people down. And so I found a very interesting article by a business coach named Rebecca Tracy. She does the Uncaged Life. And it was so funny to me because the title was, let me make sure I'm getting this right. Am I the only one who has no idea what I'm doing? And you should check that out. I'll put that in the show notes on my website there. But that's really essentially one of the thoughts that people have when they become afraid of this new thing and afraid to fail. One of the thoughts is, I don't know what I'm doing. And so what I would pose to you is, how do you get better at anything? You try it, meaning you do it, and you get feedback on what it is, and then you improve. So that's why it's so important that, even though it's not perfect, even though you really don't think you know what you're doing, to actually get into action and keep moving forward so you can get that feedback and get better faster. Then I want you to think about, what if failure is just a first attempt in learning? What if failure is just a first attempt in learning? I'm a cyclist. And so I don't know how many of you all ride bicycles or know how to ride a bicycle, but think about when you first got the training wheels off of your bike and you tried to ride. You were anything like me, you fell a bunch of times, but you kept at it. And so eventually I got to the point where I could ride with no hands, turn corners with no hands, and it was a piece of cake. But it didn't come where they took the training wheels off and all of a sudden I could do that stuff. Absolutely not. So one of the things that you want to think about is, when you're doing something new, you know that you can't do it but so many times and get better. You have to get better. As long as you keep doing it, you have to get better by getting feedback. So that's one of the things that you can look at too. So I want to jump in and share with you some practical tips, because I am a life coach by training, and sometimes it can get a little woo-woo, but I also am very analytical. So I like to give you some things that you can actually take away and do something with. So a practical tip, and this was a game changer for me when a mentor shared this concept with me. Not only what if failure is just a first in learning, but what if you took everything that you attempted to do and looked at it like an experiment, like a science experiment, where, let's say, for example, you have an offer that you want to send your list, and you just look at it as, okay, it's not, I am not a failure if something doesn't happen. What if you create the experiment or the test and you make a hypothesis? So we got to go back to science fairs and stuff like that. If you make the hypothesis, I am going to send this particular email to 100 people and I expect this result. right? It doesn't mean, so you set up the experiment, you made the hypothesis, you ran the test, you sent out this particular email, and you got X number of responses. Well, say you sent out 100 and you wanted 20 responses, but you only got 10. If you just put it out there and you were thinking it was all about you, then it's really easy to say, oh my God, I'm a failure. I suck at email marketing or content marketing. I shouldn't do it ever again. However, if you take a minute and just think about it like an experiment and you look at the parameters, okay, I had these words in the experiment. Maybe we needed to change that part, or maybe I need to send it out to more people, or what aspects of this need to change. And then you run the experiment again. That way you can just keep tweaking it and not make it personal, not make it about you or your abilities or inabilities as a copywriter, an entrepreneur, or whatever task you're trying to do at that time. So that is the biggest practical tip I can give you all, and it has helped me tremendously. I hope you all try that for the next thing that you're using, and please report back to me. So that's on the failure side, right? Then on the other side is fear. And I got to tell you, this is a confession time, that this show almost didn't happen because I was afraid, right? I passed it off as not being ready. And the truth is, it was bull, because I have these conversations all the time and they are fantastic. At least in my mind, they are. So why was I afraid? And what I've come to realize about fear is a couple of things. As long as I'm not in any physical danger, right? There's nobody chasing me. I'm not in a car accident or anything. Usually fear is telling me that I'm on the brink of doing something very important, life-changing even. And so when I look at it like that, it helps me a bit. And maybe you can take that on and borrow that thought and that belief and let it serve you. I tend to look at it now as a compass, as my due north. When I'm afraid and I know it's not going to cause me any physical danger, this is the universe telling me that, hey, this is something you're supposed to do. Like those quotes that you hear people saying, everything you want is on the other side of fear, and the thing that you fear most is the thing you need to do next. And so every time I do step into that, some amazing things happen. And so I hope that you all can take that aspect with you when you try to do something and that fear comes up with you, because I'm going to actually share with you from my journal from today, because I want you to see how fear shows up and it messes with our progress and things that we're trying to do. This is also where I was telling you all this is how to find out where the fear is coming from and actually how to change it. So my thought, there's something that we practice in the type of life coaching that I was trained in, and it's called the thought model. And what it says there, that every circumstance in our life is a fact. Everybody in the room would agree. What happens next are our thoughts about that circumstance or situation. And the good news about that is they are a choice. When we have those particular thoughts, and I call them opinions so that you realize that they are choices. When we have those opinions, they cause us to feel a certain way. And when I say feelings, people say, well, I feel that, da, 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 da. That's a thought. The feeling is a one-word emotion. Happy, sad, angry, glad, frustrated, overwhelmed, defeated. Those are your emotions, right? And when we feel those ways, it causes us to act or react in a certain way. So if going back to my good old weight coaching days, if I have the circumstance is the person looked at 200 pounds is on a scale, and the opinion that they have about 200 pounds is, I have so much weight to lose, I'm never going to be able to get it off, right? That opinion about 200 pounds on the scale causes them to feel defeated, right? Before they even start, they feel defeated. And because they're feeling defeated, their action is to sit on the couch and eat, because in their mind, they're thinking, I'm never going to be able to get rid of it, right? When you sit on the couch and continue to eat, which is what they did to get to 200 pounds, the result of that particular action repeated over and over again is they keep the weight on, which proved the original thought I'm never going to be able to get rid of that weight. So I hope you all followed that for a second. Now I'm going to show you how that shows up, or how it could have caught me today when it came to, okay, I got to do this show. So the circumstance, I have told people that I'm going to do this show, right? And one of the thoughts that I had is, people will think I don't know what I'm talking about. Now, why I had that opinion about the show, I don't know. It's irrelevant, but it was there, right? I did not know that it was swirling around in my mind, but it was there. So if I have that thought, my first emotion from that thought was, I'm afraid. That was the one word emotion. When I feel afraid because I'm choosing to think that people will think I don't know what I'm doing, then my action is to not promote the show. And if I don't promote the show, the result of that is no viewers. And if I have no viewers, then people don't know that I know what I'm talking about, which proved the original thought. So I would encourage you all to kind of take a look. And it's hard. People talk about journaling. There are 50 million trillion ways to journal. But whenever you are feeling afraid or feeling some type of negative emotion that's related to any aspect of your life, but especially the things that you want to improve, and I backed into that particular journal session and I asked myself, why am I afraid? Because I knew what the emotion was. I didn't know what my opinions or my thoughts were. So I asked myself, why am I afraid? And then that's when I was able to come up with the thought model. And I'll be happy to help any of you all through some of those if you want to reach out to me. You can always email me at tavana@tavanadenise.com. But that's what showed up for me. So once I could see it for what it was, then I could stop and ask myself, okay, I'm feeling afraid because of these thoughts that I'm having. How do I want to feel? And I wanted to feel, I thought about a few emotions. So one was excited. That wasn't really working for me. Wanted to feel heard. That wasn't really working for me. But the one that did help, the emotion that did help me get into action, was helpful. I want to feel helpful. And when I feel helpful, it causes me to tell people about it so that you can get here. And so that's really how I got past the fear. So that is the biggest tool, practical tool, that I can give you today to help you work through fear and or any other emotion that you have going on. Practical tips on the side of fear are: one, you can rip off the Band-Aid and jump in the pool, whichever you like to call it. And I say, put a date on it. So I told people that I was doing this on Wednesday. Here it is, Wednesday, and we're doing it. I asked a friend to help me design this fantastic graphic. So I put a date on her. That meant that I had to come through because I was asking her to do something for me. Another thing that you can do is sell it. If you know that you've been putting off a course that you want to do, or a workshop or webinar or whatever, if you pre-sell it, people are now counting on you. So, or you don't have to sell it for money, but you can get people to register. So that's a way to get you into action. Another practical tip for shifting out of fear is to know what motivates you. Are you motivated internally by, okay, you want certain things for yourself, or are you an externally motivated person, knowing that if you have to do it for yourself, you'll keep putting it off. But if somebody else is dependent on you, then you know you'll do it. So know those things about yourself. And then the final practical tip I have for you for today is tell people what you're going to do, someone that you trust, so that they can check in with you and help you be accountable and hold you there with love. And you will find, if you continue to follow me, that I love, love, love quotes. They inspire me. They motivate me. They're like affirmations for my life. And so the one I want to leave you with today is, I am enough for who needs me next. And I heard that from Natasha Ulrich. I hope I'm saying her name right. But I am enough for who needs me next. And that'll be in the show notes as well. If you want to continue the conversation, please, 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 I would love it if you joined me on my website for the replay of this episode, tavanadenise.com. And I look forward to speaking with you all next week.